The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Georgia's foreign exchange reserves hit a historic high in December 2021 and reached $4.27 billion, showed data from the National Bank of Georgia. The increase in reserves is likely due to the transfers of foreign loans attracted by the government. The volume of official reserves has grown by $360 million year over year.
Inflation rate will be down from late this year, said the Minister of Economy. According to Natia Turnava, the Georgian government is actively interfering in the process of price stabilization. According to the forecast of the National Bank, we expect the inflation rate will be down from late this year, and it is possible to reach the pre-pandemic levels, which is a maximum of 3–4%, stated the minister. In December 2021, the annual inflation rate stood at 13.9%.
The chairman of Georgian Energy and Water Supply Regulatory Commission declares that the commission hasn't received any notice on tariff revising so far. We have imports during the winter season and prices are quite higher compared to the previous period, but 2021 was a hydrologically quite a wet period for Georgia, due to which we had a high share of cheap energy. So far, I have neither any notice nor any forecast from which the Commission can discuss the tariff revision. There is no such issue, said David Narmanian.
Wine exports exceeded 100 million bottles in 2021, according to the National Wine Agency of Georgia. The volume of exported wine was up by 14% in 11 months of 2021 compared to the same period of the previous year. At the same time, revenues from exported wine reached $222 million, which is 4% more compared to the same data of 2020. According to the agency, the dynamics of export growth in the strategic markets of Georgia are maintained, and that's Poland, China, United States, Germany, Latvia, Lithuania, Japan, and Great Britain.
This is the Checkpoint, authored and presented to you by Elena Kvanchilashvili and myself. I'm David Jalagonia. Here we are with news and analysis on business and economics.
Yes, 10 p.m. sharp, and we're ready to start. This week, the court found Mamuka Khazaradze, Badri Japaridze, and Avtandil Tsereteli guilty and sentenced them to 7 years in prison. However, exempted them from criminal charges. Judge Georgi Arevadze announced the verdict. The court also requalified the initial charges of money laundering to Article 180 to A3B to the Criminal Code, involving fraud committed by more than one person and in large quantities. According to Mamuka Khazaradze, Badri Japaridze, and Avtandil Tsereteli, they will appeal against this decision and will fight for its abolition.
The General Prosecutor's Office of Georgia also responded to the court ruling with an official statement. They claim that the Tbilisi City Court fully approved the evidence presented by the prosecution and found Mamuka Khazaradze, Badri Japaridze, and Avtandil Tsereteli guilty. But meanwhile, the court did not agree with the prosecution's assessment of the legal classification of the crime. We can give you more details about the statement released by the prosecutor's office.
Tbilisi City Court fully approved the evidence presented by the prosecution and found Mamuka Khazaradze, Badri Japaridze, and Avtandil Tsereteli guilty of fraudulent misappropriation of $60,654,000 USD belonging to TBC Bank under the Article 180 of the Criminal Code of Georgia. However, the court did not agree with the prosecution's assessment of the legal classification of the crime committed, which is why the defendant's actions were classified as fraud. As a part of the criminal case, each accused was sentenced to 7 years of imprisonment. According to the criminal procedure legislation of Georgia. They have been exempted from serving their sentences due to the expiration of the statute of limitations for criminal prosecution for fraud. We would like to remind the public that Mamuka Khazaradze, Badri Japaridze, and Avtandil Tsereteli were charged with money laundering under Article 194 of the Criminal Code of Georgia. The prosecution will appeal the court's decision to the Court of Appeals within the time frame set by law.
Mamuka Khazaradze and Badri Japaridze were acquitted of money laundering charges. Ekaterina Gutia, lawyer of Badri Japaridze and Mamuka Khazaradze, wrote in a letter, "All liens against my client's properties dismissed, all provisional measures vacated, trial ended, first legal battle won. Congratulations to them. The court convicted my clients of fraud instead, a predicate crime which is statutorily time-barred offense with no sentence or jail time possible due to statute of limitations. We will appeal this part of the decision in the courts of higher instances and the ECHR if needed, because there was no fraud, because this is a political persecution. Justice will prevail," reads Egutia's statement.
Kati Kvarskava, partner of BLC Law Office, also evaluated the ruling by stating that the only purpose of the orchestrated attack on Badri Japaridze and Mamuka Khazaradze was to damage their reputation and suspend the Anakle port project. When we talk about the project of the country, I mean Anakle deep water seaport, it's impossible for its investors to have damaged its reputation, and the attack has that purpose. Thus, it became impossible to take further steps in a project, and eventually the government terminated the contract with the Anakle Development Consortium, Kvarskava said.
Anakle Development Consortium itself also responded to the ruling of Tbilisi City Court regarding its principal investors Mamuka Khazaradze and Badri Japaridze, calling it the political vendetta carried out by Georgian Dream in its effort to kill the Anakle deepwater port project.
After 3 years of political persecution against Mamuka Khazaradze and Badri Japaridze, the Tbilisi City Court has rendered a judgment designed to keep a cloud of baseless criminal charges hanging over their heads, reports Anakle Development Consortium. Take a look. The judgment is simply an attempt at political face-saving by the judiciary and the government. It's true that the court has discarded the money laundering charges. However, the court has also arbitrarily replaced them with a finding of fraud without the authority to make such a finding. There is no basis under the law for this action by the court. This outcome is a farce measures. Khazaradze and Japaridze were tried of one crime but convicted of another, which was never presented by the prosecutor. For ADC's part, this judgment is further proof that the ruling party remains intent on either killing the Anakle port project outright or ensuring that it cannot proceed with the involvement of ADC's investors.
Yes, David, and we have seen Khazaradze's friends from Harvard publish a letter ahead of the trial. Representatives of up to 20 countries with large capital and investment portfolios fully supported Mamuka Khazaradze. For more details on this case, you can visit our webpage, bm.g. We try to keep you updated on everything that matters for business and economics in this country and beyond. Our Facebook page, BMG English, and all social networks of BMG also have some additional information of local and global importance. Let me share one such video with you that intersects between local and global and has to do everything with Georgia's Euro-Atlantic future. This message of support in these quite tense times between the free world and Russia comes from the ambassador of the United States of America, Ms. Kelly Degnan, once more on behalf of the checkpoints and the whole BMG team. Your Excellency, thank you.
Gamarjoba. I hope all of you have had a chance to spend time with family and friends over the holiday season. This week, the world is watching a series of high-level diplomatic meetings to address Russia's recent destabilizing actions and threats to European security. We've already seen a lot of Russian disinformation, so I want to be clear about some basic facts. The United States respects the sovereignty of each country, including Georgia and Ukraine. Russia does not get a veto over your sovereign decisions. We will not negotiate about Georgia without Georgia. Secretary Blinken has said the United States will not discuss European security without our European allies and partners. We are unwavering in our support for Georgia's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We will continue to join the overwhelming majority of the international community in calling for Russia to end its occupation of Georgia. We are also firm in our commitment that, as stated in the Bucharest Declaration, when the conditions have been met, Georgia and other partners will become members of NATO. Why is high-level diplomacy necessary? Because the Kremlin insists Russia should be allowed to establish an exclusive sphere of influence throughout Eastern Europe and the Caucasus. President Putin's goal is to stop these countries, including Georgia, from acting as fully sovereign, independent nations that have the right to choose their own security partners. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman launched this week's high-level diplomacy by meeting with her Russian counterpart in Geneva. That will be followed by meetings at NATO in Brussels and at the OSCE in Vienna. These meetings are extremely relevant to Georgia, and we are coordinating closely with the Georgian government as well as other partners and our NATO allies. As the Deputy Secretary discussed in her conversation with Georgia's foreign minister last week, Russia's demands are unacceptable. They are an attempt to discard 30 years of post-Cold War peace, stability, and progress, and try to recreate Soviet domination and control over its neighbors. Georgians know Russia very well. You know how the Kremlin twists the truth and distorts history, trying to confuse and divide people. Russia is the country that destroyed the Republic of Georgia in 1921, desecrated Georgian Orthodox churches, and tried to smother the Georgian language. Georgians fought for your country and your freedom against Russia so you could choose your own future as a strong democracy, a choice the United States is very proud to support. You continue to experience Russian aggression every day in the form of Russia's occupation of Abkhazia and South Ossetia, and you're subject to constant disinformation attacks. Russia has been trying to divide the United States and our European allies and partners, including Georgia, for years, and this is just the latest attempt. We will not allow this to happen. The United States and Europe have worked too hard and sacrificed too much for the 80 years of peace and prosperity we've enjoyed because of NATO and transatlantic cooperation. Georgia has been a strong partner in this effort, and we will continue to consult with Georgia every step of the way. Let's be clear. The Kremlin has nothing to offer its neighbors but fear, oppression, and disinformation. That is not what Georgia or the United States stand for. The United States continues to believe in a Europe whole, free, and at peace, and we will continue to work to make this a reality together with our European partners and allies. We are willing to meet with Russia to attempt to prevent conflict and de-escalate, but we cannot and will not trade away European security, sovereignty, or freedom. The Georgian motto is our motto, Zala Ertobashia. Madloba.
Let us proceed with the ambassadorials then, and let me present the interviews that our reporter Tamta Cicavadze conducted with the ambassador of Turkey. Interview focuses on the assessment of the potential to open up Turkey's former market for Georgia, the initiatives that the Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili has been repeating in a context of making medicine more accessible for Georgia's population.
The Prime Minister's focus on medicine prices was apparent on the very first government sitting in 2022. Our promise is to regulate medicine prices. The competition agency has already completed analysis of the pharmaceutical market. The new health minister has already met with the head of the agency, and together they planned further measures. We are also going to open a Turkish market to import high-quality medicines. We predict that it will reduce the prices of medicine. In addition, we are working on legislation that will further improve the situation in this area, Irakli Garibashvili stated.
In 2021, the government administration discussed the competition agency's report on the pharmaceutical market and their recommendations. The parties considered possible steps to be taken to regulate the situation and growing medication prices on the pharmaceutical market. Here's Tamta Cicavadze's interview with the Turkish ambassador.
So as he emphasized, the government will open up Turkish pharmaceutical market to make medicines in Georgia cheaper. We are really interested in if there are any discussions between Turkish and Georgian parts going on. So what is left to finalize this process? And finally, to start import cheap medicines from Turkey to Georgia.
Well, thank you. First, let me rephrase. The medicines from Turkey are not cheap medicines, but they are more affordable when you compare the prices with Georgia in certain instances. There are, of course, different categories of medicines and different categories of medical equipment, and they are all together. Last year, during the pandemic, actually, the ministries of health of Turkey and Georgia had an intense conversation on a range of issues, and the cooperation on the provision of medical, pharmaceutical products was one of them. In Turkey, we have production, local production, national production of medicines, but also we have distributors of international brands and international companies. And of course, it's about licensing. Every state, every government would like to control the quality of medicines and of course the affordability, the access of accessibility by the population. And as the previous prime minister's visit to Turkey a couple of years ago, this issue came up. And then the pandemic started. And then the government started talking about this. And now, as Prime Minister Garibashvili had announced, there is the intention of closer cooperation. And what is a closer cooperation? Of course, it's actually the medical companies, the pharmaceutical companies, and Ministry of Health of Georgia have to talk about this. The licensing requirements, import requirements by Georgia, and what are the expectations from the Turkish companies, and why certain Turkish products are not able to be sold here as more affordable. So these are the questions which we wanted our pharmaceutical companies to focus on, to find out what we can do more as the Turkish government. And we found out, indeed, that it's not all about trade. So it's not about selling more. It's about selling what is required here. And also, there is a system here which works. So there are distributors, there are control, market control, there are points of sales, the pharmacies, and of course there needs to be protection of the existing system, but making it more affordable also for the citizens of Georgia, so that they don't have to go and buy from Turkey and come back, because which is happening. And in that respect, in fact, today in our embassy, there will be a meeting with the representatives of the companies, Turkish pharmaceutical companies who are in Tbilisi. We had been planning this for a month now, so we waited the holiday season to be over. And now today our commercial section will be meeting them. And we would like to learn particular points of concern which we should address together with the Georgian government and the Georgian professionals who are already working in this sector. And well, the health system, the provision of medical needs is a whole. In Turkey, we have a system, and certain subsidies and certain support from the Turkish government also makes the medical treatment as a whole more affordable for the Turkish citizens. So We also would like to help the Georgian government in establishing, maybe learning more about what we do in Turkey that works as a good practice and what we can do even more in Turkey, because no system is perfect. As we know, all health systems in the world that there are room to improve in everywhere, and of course in Turkey as well. So we would like to just share our experience about how the role of governments in making medical needs, medical equipment and pharmaceutical products, medicines, more affordable and more accessible, more available for the population. And also maybe there's a system, for instance, in Turkey, if you are a Turkish citizen and if you're registered in the social security system, then certain medicine which would be very expensive on your own budget, which will not be available, is provided by certain government assistance. So there are different roles of government in this system. It's not only about the price of the product. And of course, the producers, pharmaceutical companies, cannot give it for free, or they have to profit. They have to make a profit. But that profit, of course, has to be a controlled profit, because nothing, as in health, affects the population. You can have a wonderful education system, you can have a lot of job places, but if you're not going to have a healthy, a guaranteed health system with a standard, then your population will not be able to benefit from all the other things that the society and the governments provide. So this is a crucial issue. We see this more than a trade issue between Turkey and Georgia. This is about our populations being healthy. And of course, there's no guaranteed health maybe, but at least when a part of the population need medicine, they should not have to suffer just because they don't have money. Mm-hmm. That is very important. And we care. I care, and the government of Turkey also cares, the government of Georgia cares. And I think that's what the Prime Minister's words reveal. So it's about caring, to be frank. Now, on the trade part, we are going to find out which products, particularly essential medical products, that we may be able to provide to Georgia, the Turkish companies, without causing a market blunder, if I might say, but still make it accessible. I think in the course of next few months, we may be able to see more improvement, more development on this issue. But of course, this is a public discussion as well in Georgia, which we are not a part of. We can work with the Ministry of Health of Georgia, and of course that involves the trade authorities, that involves the customs authorities, and that's a whole of government approach. So that's why it was very valuable that the Prime Minister Garibashvili has said what he said.
So you have mentioned that today you are going to meet the representatives of Turkish pharmaceutical companies. Yeah. So it is really interesting how if they are ready to supply Georgia with.
We're talking about medical companies in Turkey who are looking for ways to export to Western markets as well. And of course, it's about quality. And I can give you now the export, more or less the export numbers, which the Turkish pharmaceutical companies have already been exporting to Georgia. It's not that you don't have here, you have, but you could have more affordable, more variety, and faster. And this is the focus, and particularly the variety of products. And I would say that overall, we're talking about here $40 million exports. This year, Turkey had exported to Georgia.
You mean 2021, right? You mean
these are these are in 2020. Turkish pharmaceutical companies exported to Georgia around 43 plus million worth of products. But these are when you think about the categories, these are in 6 or 7 categories of medicines. So it could be more. And of course, a real market research is needed. And of course, that's not obviously Turkey's job to do that, but discussing why certain medicine is has a big difference of price in Georgia and in Turkey, that issue we need to discuss.
The Business Association of Georgia, BAG, has also responded to the Prime Minister's announcement on the opening up of the Turkish pharmaceutical market and declared that it was a timely decision, stating that during the meeting with the Prime Minister Garibashvili, the member companies of the Georgian Business Association discussed the need to open up the market, which would put on an equal footing the business operators working in the pharmaceutical sector as well as the population that would be able to receive cheap and quality medicines.
We had the chance to pose some questions to the Executive Director of the Business Association of Georgia, Levan Verpadze, and his was the attitude of the business community united under the largest association is on an issue.
We had a meeting with the Prime Minister, and there was offered from the side of business a couple of ideas regarding the improvement of the market, and obviously there is a problem. There are a couple of problems on the market, and it's not only the problem that we call the high margins of medicine prices. Competition agency, they revealed on this market that there is no problem of margins of medicine. There is a problem of the high payment from pockets of our customers, our consumers, and obviously it's a problem. The Prime Minister and the members of government, they asked business what should be done in order to improve this situation, and one of the recommendations was the following, that what was done in 2009, it was government established that time the system of parallel import from countries where, for example, FDA or EMA approval medicine operated, and that's why obviously when our importers started buying drugs from local wholesale markets, it was definitely cheaper for them than from drugs coming from manufacturers. And that time what we got is the significant improvement of the market and significant lowering the prices of medicine. Now what we offered is to extend this kind of system on Turkey, because Turkey is a well-developed country with well-developed established mechanism of drug controls, and that's why we think that if there is a prices which is a couple of times, in some cases couple of times lower than in Georgia, we can benefit from this situation buying medicine from wholesale Turkish market and importing it to Georgia. And if this is done, it will significantly improve the customers' interest, I think. I think that we have high competition on these industries. That's why if we unbundle these vertically integrated companies, finally we got not decrease but increase prices, but because the cost of operation of these companies will be higher. And they can benefit from vertical integration, but we observe that it's impossible to benefit because of their share in hospital industry. Finally what we get at the end of the day is the higher cost for companies. It means the prices goes up.
David, probably you would agree that good hot soup is sometimes a very effective remedy. Now, why have I started this conversation? Georgia's Kharcho made it on CNN Travel's list of the world's 20 best soups. Look how yummy it sounds.
Tart plum sauce called khemali adds bright, zesty flavor to this traditional soup, which is one of Georgia's most beloved dishes. It's made with unripe plums, whose sour note balances the richness of flatty beef and ground walnuts cooked into the soup. The aromatic kick, though, comes from the spice mix khmeli suneli, a blend of coriander, savory, fenugreek, black pepper, marigold, and more.
And it's time, I think, to look at the week in business. Here's our bulletin.
Wine sales of Patagonia Rajuli up by 70%. The company's products are sold in 4 countries: Italy, France, USA, and Israel. But at this stage, work is underway to export Rajuli bio wine to Sweden and Germany. As Shorena Pataridze, the founder of the company, told BMG, the wine exports of Patagonia Rajuli increased by 70% in 2021 compared to the last year. As for the export, she notes that negotiations are underway with Sweden. In addition, their German investor Stefan Bruno Scheuler is also considering wine exports to Germany, where interest in Georgian wine is quite high. Shorena Pataridze states that the productivity of Patagonia Rajuli has increased by 100% compared to 2020. Noste expands production with investment of 50 million gelari. Georgi Pirtskalaishvili, executive director of Georgian poultry company Noste, declares that the company plans to double its productivity by investing 50 million gelari in 2022 and increase the number of retail outlets. According to him, despite the challenges, 2021 was a successful year for the company and demand on their product exceeded the supply by about 30%. So Noste decided to increase production volumes in 2022. As of the current plan, the farms will be doubled this year, and as a result, Noste will supply the local market 6,000 tons of poultry meat per year. Moreover, the company plans to open additional stores in various districts of Tbilisi. Also, the company will launch a new concept store early this year where customers will find a wide range of Georgian products. According to the plan set by the company for 2022, the number of employees in the company will also increase. Georgian poultry company Noste started selling chicken and poultry meat in 2020. The company has invested 20 million gelari in business development at this stage. As a result, there are more than 40 Noste stores in Tbilisi today, and the company employs 300 persons. Sviat Tsikolia, founder and designer of exclusive watch brand Tsikolia, declares that 2021 was a successful year for the company. According to him, demand on accessories increased by 50% last year, but due to the logistical difficulties, the company did not match the supply. Despite that, production volume was increased by 50% in 2021 compared to 2020, while growth was more significant in 2020, which amounted to 150% compared to 2019. It's important that the designer continues to work on new models which will arrive in Georgia by mid-January. The designer notes that Tsikolia brand watches and jewelry are sold online in almost every country worldwide, and the only place where sales haven't taken place is Latin America. Company Patagonia had a 13% increase in exports in 2021 despite the challenges posed by the pandemic. As CEO of the company, Giorgi Salakaya explains the growth was especially observed on the European markets, namely exports were increased by 20% in Poland. The company has also entered Chinese market in 2021. Patagonia plans to expand in the U.S. market for 2022. If the company sold 100,000 bottles of wine in America in 2021, the company now plans to export 200,000 bottles of wine. Company Chicory began exporting its dried fruit to France, the United Kingdom, and Canada. A total of 6 tons of dried fruits were assigned to those markets. In addition, the company is currently negotiating with the Emirates to enter the Dubai market. The company's export manager, Anna Sosalia, told BMG that they plan a long-term cooperation with partners and still are waiting for orders. Chicory, producer of various sweets and dried fruit, makes exports to Lithuania, Qatar, Ukraine, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, Canada, and Czech Republic. Jewelry company Zarabhana plans to open showrooms in 2 countries late in 2022. Speaking to BMG, the company's CEO Nicolas Nakopia said that the company planned to open showrooms in the United Arab Emirates and the UK in 2020, but pandemic changed the company's plans. According to Nakopia, the company is going to implement this plan in 2022. As of the director of the company, opening of a new showroom requires investment of over $250,000 USD. Zarabhana produces more than 11,000 types of jewelry which are sold worldwide. After the opening of showrooms, the company will be officially represented in the world market. A central transport hub will be built in Bakuriani. The Municipal Development Fund has already announced the tender. The estimated value for the construction amounts to 70 million $. The hub will be built under the 3rd Regional Development Project funded by the World Bank. The complex will be multifunctional. It will include parking lots, car wash, and vehicle repair space. The project area is 13,712 square meters and is located near the Bakuriani bypass road. Herbie, a producer of agriculture products which operates in Skaltubo, expects a 40% increase in sales in 2022. As Zurab Janelica, the founder of Herbie, declares they will be able to increase sales partly at the expense of adding new products to the range. The company Herbie added up to 22 new products in 2021, including cheese, beans, walnuts, fish, and more. It should be noted that these products are produced by local farmers under the control of the company's specialists.
Speaking of business and know-how, foreign know-how, David, we have Georgi Sakadze's interview with Emmanuel Kastner of Desange International, which is also represented in Georgia. Desange International is the only franchisor in the world in the global beauty sector to be positioned at the top of the range. Every day, more than 230,000 customers walk through the door of one of the group's beauty salons. Please enjoy the interview.
Great to host you here. Thank you so much for being with us, and great to host you personally, Emmanuel, in Forbes Georgia office.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor.
So finally, we are in personal connection.
It's more easy.
Yeah, it's easier. But at the same time, we still face some difficulties. Last 700 days, 2 years after pandemic. At the same time, Desange International, which unites 3 brands, putting on it, they used to pass over 250,000. It was 230,000 consumers. And how do we do it right nowadays? Are we adapted? Where do we stand?
You know, that's a very good question. Yes, we have 3 brands. We have Desange, the most well-known. We have Camille Albert, which is in the high level segment, and we have another brand only in the United States, Fantastic Sam's.
Yes.
But this is only in the United States. The situation was...
But it's quite successful as well.
Yes, of course. But the situation has been very difficult, like for everyone during that period of time, especially when we were closed, because you cannot do any business. So me as the chairman with my team of the brand, we have to do our best to support the best as we can our franchisee all over the world, and to keep the link and to create the link with them, and to develop new communication tools to adapt to even more develop our communication through social media, to give also the possibility to franchisee all over the world for Dosange, Camille Albin, and Fantastic Sam to keep the link with their customers. But you're closed. So your customers, they have to wait for you to reopen your business. But everywhere in the world, once we have been able to reopen our business, it was not exactly in the same times, it was immediately successful.
How long did it take to reopen?
In France, for example, if I remember well, but very difficult to forget that, we closed all our locations from the 16th of March to the 11th of May in 2020. So we reopened 11th of May and we closed again in November.
Whoa.
And we had no lockdown in 2021. We had to respect some curfew. So we were obliged to close at 5 or at 6. But no big lockdown, only in the mall, but we are not in the mall.
We're talking about 350 salons, outlets of Dosange just in France.
Just in France, between Dosange and Camille Albin.
Yeah.
And each time we reopen our business, it was a big success because our customers and people were waiting for us. But you know, it was this very strange period of time, because during that period of time, I think that the people just realize our hairstylists, our hairdresser are important.
Am I right in my calculations or analysis, whatever it is, that your partner, at the same time founder of Dosange in Georgia, Sofia Korke, just updated us that it was locked down salons here in Georgia just for 2 months. And
Yes.
Then it was reopened and never been closed.
Yes, here in
So
Georgia.
we are in favor all over the world, maybe in this regard.
Yes, it's very different from country to country. And in the United States, they didn't close the location immediately in 2020, but a little bit later.
Yeah.
And it was different from one state to another state. In India, the situation was even more complicated,
Yeah, sure.
but not right at the beginning, but right after it was very hard for them. So we have to manage different situations in different countries. But to be honest, all our franchisee, our master franchisee, as Sofia here in Georgia, they did an amazing job.
Excellent.
They did an amazing job.
Tell me about the business of Dosange in Georgia from your perspective. You're here because of the certain purpose. We're talking about already the second outlet opening in Tbilisi, which is a big success, taking into consideration sizes and how Georgian economy is developing. So at the same time, Dosange is a brand of the high grade, where so many, maybe Forbes is somewhere there as well. So tell us where Dosange Georgia stands from your perspective.
Well, you know, to be very honest and transparent with you, the first idea to open a Dosange salon in Georgia didn't come from us, but come from Sofia.
Yes.
She just entered in contact with his team to us with his wonderful project. And for us, the most important thing is when we open a hair salon somewhere with our brand, with one of our brand, is to have a good feeling. And you're never sure, but to make all the chance in our side to find and to meet with the right partner. And it was exactly the case with Sofia when we met the first time, and she opened the salon in 2013, if I remember well. I was here for the grand opening celebration. She was totally convinced about the fact that the brand could be successful here. She had a great knowledge with the brands. It was Sofia, it was Nutsi, one of his associates. They were talking about Dosange if they were already part of the Dosange family. So, you know, the most difficult thing for us was to refuse them to have this opportunity to open the salon.
It was surprising how they are governing and running franchise.
No, I was first very impressed and surprised how they were able to speak about our brands. And we are not everywhere where we go, and we are not looking for quantities. We are only looking for qualities. Sometimes we are doing some mistakes. We are trying to do our best not to do too many mistakes, sorry. But here I was immediately convinced that it will be very successful, even if you consider some metrics here in the country. But where women are, we can be. And in Georgia, you have a very beautiful country. Tbilisi is an amazing and beautiful city with beautiful women. You know what is our most difficult challenge here? It's to make the Georgian women more beautiful than they are actually. This is one of the most difficult challenges, but we can do it.
Tell me, I'm totally fine with the perspective of Desange in Georgia.
Me too.
And at the same time, we know how well covered and occupied it is. The opening of the second salon, for me it's outlet, but nevertheless, does it mean that business is going not just in the right direction, but it's developing in this small country? I will quoting you personally, while taking into consideration the metrics of the local economy and country itself.
I think the best person to tell us about the metrics is Sofia herself and his team. And of course, the business is going in the right direction since the opening of the first salon or the first outlet, as you said. And you know, from the beginning, it was their target to open a second and maybe a third salon in Georgia, according to how the things are going on. And because the business is going in the right direction, they very fast had the target to open a second one, and they had this opportunity in this new area now. And I visited the salon the first time this morning, soon in the morning, and it looks amazing. It's not so big, but it's like a little bit cocoon, and it looks like a Desange salon as we want the Desange salon to be, and I'm very proud of that. And I have no doubt that it will be a big success because Sofia and her team are offering the women in Georgia to access to a second location, maybe more close where they are. And I think that this is something very important.
Yeah, that's the purpose for me, definitely. They are following the traffic right now to make local customers more happy. And that's why I want to congratulate you personally once more with the opening of the second salon in Tbilisi. Thank you so much for this interview. Congratulations with a wonderful partner having in Georgia like Sofia Korkia is, and good luck to the Desange.
Thank you very much for your very nice and kind words, but we mainly have to congratulate Sofia and her associate and her team. We are here for her, she knows that. And we have no doubt that it will be a great success because this is a dream partner and we have it. Thank you very much for having me again.
Thanks for that word. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's only logical to continue with teasing in Forbes Georgia English edition, which you can already find on counters, and then of course a little bit later you can also follow up with the digital version of very diverse and interesting content on a website, forbes.gu.
Forbes Georgia's new edition in English is out. On the cover, interview with Noshrevan Namuradze, a young, prominent entrepreneur and the founder of Villa Residence, building a high-end residential district a few kilometers away from Tbilisi center. The project has already successfully progressed over 8 hectares with another $200 million invested and additional 12 hectares of land purchased and continue the development of the modern district. Forbes Georgia introduced the largest development project, Villa Residence, in the capital of Georgia, led by its founder, Noshrevan Namuradze.
In Forbes Georgia's English language winter edition, you can also read an op-ed from Zurab Giaberashvili, Georgia in the Face of Death, Has the vaccination process failed in the country? Is the death rate high? Is the situation as bad as the dramatic statements make it out to be? Look at the statistics in the article to find out. In August this year, annual inflation in Georgia reached a 10-year high of 12.8% before falling to 12.3% the following month. How do we rein in inflation? Follow Beso Namchavadzi's thoughts and analytics on the topic. The Georgia-Ireland Business Council, the interview with George Zurabishvili, the ambassador of Georgia to Ireland on the new opportunities to boost bilateral economic relations. A great transformation against the backdrop of the pandemic. M-Square posted its best results in a decade during each of the last 2 years. Market maker. In 5 years, TBC Insurance collected more than $308 million in premiums. One goal has been achieved and the next one is already in place. Patagonia and TBC have their sights set on developing the life insurance segment in Georgia.
You can also read the world's 100 most valuable brands in 2021, the highest paid athletes, a Georgian businessman with a European accent, and many more. So read and enjoy Forbes Georgia.
David, this is the case, and as an executive editor of Forbes Georgia, I mentioned this very proudly that this has been the case for a while now. When we can offer more than one teaser to our viewers and followers, Forbes Georgia infrastructure is also out, so take a brief look.
As promised, we published the second issue of Forbes Infrastructure during the New Year period, the main topics of which are transportation, transport communications, and Georgian railways. Accordingly, the issue will offer you an interview with the General Director of the Georgian Railway, David Peradze, where he talks about the company's results and priorities. Georgian Railway has made a profit of the first time since 2017. Along with the achievement, there are many challenges that the company will have to deal with in the coming years. In addition, in the new issue of Forbes Infrastructure, you will read.
An interview with Georgi Mirtsulava, General Director of Energon, was created specifically for the new issue of Forbes Georgia. Pat Atrapaidze, founder of the Caucasus Road Project, answered Forbes Infrastructure's questions about competition and needs in the field of road construction. Despite the global pandemic crisis, none of the road infrastructure projects in Georgia in 2020-2021 have stopped. The progress of the project of the century, the competitiveness of Georgian companies, and the plans for 2022 that will be a turning point for Rikoti projects. Georgi Tsereteli, chairman of the Roads Department of Georgia, spoke to Forbes Infrastructure about these topics. What are the plans of EPM Terminal Poti in the development of the regional transport hub? At what stage is the Rikoti tunnel called the project of the century? And what does the diverse leasing mean? This is just a small list of the topics that we'll discuss in detail and in the usual analysis of the profile edition, topics that are important in the process of building a better country. So read Forbes, a century-old guide to business and economics.
And before we say goodbye, we have one more interview to offer, which will give you the wrap-up of the pension reform in Georgia and also give you a peek into its future developments.
Yes, David, thank you for this introduction. Georgi and I talked to the CEO of pension agency, Georgi Danelia, before we left for the brief vacation on Christmas holidays. If you look at top read news on BM.G English, you will see that interest in this reform is quite large. So here's an annual report basically of the pension agency to our viewers and followers, where they can decide, where you can decide what needs to be watched for in the coming future as well.
It's time to make some conclusions.
Yes, a report.
Report? Okay.
Report for the checkpoints.
Take into consideration pension agency, it should permanent and will be permanent for sure. Georgi, glad to have you here in our office again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for taking our questions. So what did the pandemic, yet another pandemic year, look like for the
Crossing fingers for the next one.
Yeah. I think it wouldn't be surprised that for us as well as for the whole economy and for country and the region, the pandemic was one of the major challenges within 2021. But besides that fact, I think we managed that quite effectively, especially taking into consideration the investment results that we have. And we generated approximately 11.5% return on our investment. I think it's quite good result, especially if you look from the initiation of the
investment office and from the starting point of investment activities, we have generated approximately 6% of real return, which means that we have 6% above the inflation for that period.
Oh, okay.
So that's quite a result, I believe. So in that regard, we still we think and we hope that for the next year, the pandemic effect will be minimized, let's say, not only for the PA but for the country itself, and we'll continue that trend for upcoming years for sure.
Structural wise, I want to highlight two directions. While we'll more or less touch already inflation, its future and possible amendments, let me say so, because you were in a process with our MPs within the parliamentary committees, etc., in regards of some specific amendments. And at the same time, my next question goes to the confidence, which is my major key issue in regards of PA. So let's begin with the amendments.
Okay. As for the amendments, I think we discussed it in the beginning of the year that we were trying to have some kind of technical amendments in the law, which stem from our practice already, how things should be done, etc., etc. And then our investment board expressed willingness to add some, let's say, amendments that might be connected to investment mandate.
And to expand it, right?
Yeah, so basically we mean that to expand and some kind of give more flexibility to investment office to, let's say, have more diversified portfolio, because as we see, investment area of our potential or possible investments is quite limited. And so given the constraints, the risk constraints and limits that we have in the law, so that's why I think that was the main reason why investment board and I share their, let's say, ideas and share their thoughts that that might be a good and effective amendment for activities, investment activities as a whole. So that's why I think if we can, let's say, make it happen, that will only benefit the beneficiaries because it will somehow boost their rate of return.
Do you agree with me that confidence, what I've already touched, is something what should be permanently taken care, overviewed, monitored from PA team as well? Not as well, first of all, from PA team itself.
Definitely. And as for the confidence, I think the best answer to that problem is our results. And the fact that we already have beneficiaries who already are benefiting their own savings. We already paid out, as we call it, their savings to them. And the amount of total payouts is already more than 2 million Georgian lari. And besides that, as time passes, they see what we do, how we treat their savings, how we invest their savings, and I think that's the best answer to their concern. They can feel more safe and confident as they follow our results. Of course, we try to spread the information as much as possible. We want our beneficiaries to understand what kind of scheme it is and how they can benefit from it. And that, of course, as more information and more aware they are about the scheme and about their savings, I think the more safe they feel.
Of course, and more they feel that this is their money that is being managed by professionals. Expansion of the mandate and also the confidence, and I would like to link these two together. Do you think a special depository has changed the picture, and is the need for expanding this mandate based on the assessment of what special depository has already achieved in terms of investments?
My answer is definitely yes, because special depository was one of the requirements of the law, and before that we were unable to diversify our portfolio, simple as that. After that, and after signing the contract with the special depository, which took quite a work and time because it was a very complex contract, we are able, our investment office is able to diversify the portfolio, which means that they can more effectively manage risk and more effectively target the return they want to target for our beneficiaries. The special depository, and there might be some confusion within the beneficiaries of why it's called a depository. Do you put all our money in one bank or whatsoever? So it's more like a safe. It's a safe. It's a one line of defense, as we call them. They control how we make decisions, let's say, to put it simply, how our investment office makes decisions. They check compliance with the law, they check compliance with the investment mandate, and they, if there is any concern or whatsoever, they raise this concern within the National Bank of Georgia, because the National Bank is the regulator of the special depository. So it's kind of independent
additional safe, yeah.
Yeah, additional safety for our investment decisions. So this is very, very important milestone for 2021 that we achieved this year.
Is this diversification a challenge, considering again the mandate that you have currently?
Well, if you look at the investment, possible investment alternatives within the Georgian economy, you'll see that it's quite limited. Even though we have this diversification possibility, you still cannot invest all the money that we have now, because we have quite strict requirements in the law. There is written that, for instance, we can invest in the company that has sovereign rating or one notch below, which is very limited in Georgian economy. So, for instance, one of the amendments that might be discussed within the relative bodies is that this rating requirement may be a bit loosened, because, for instance, if we look at the companies that have sovereign rating -2 notches, that a bit increases the potential investments that we have. So all these little details all together make the big picture. So in that regard, I think if we go in that way, and if we get that amendments, and that even this diversification would be more effective.
Just in time to follow PA team with BMG TV.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So what's on the agenda in 2022 already, and what will be your main message that you want to put out to the stakeholders of PA?
Well, I would divide our milestones in two parts. The first one is the investment activity, and the second one is the operational activity. For investment activity, for sure, it would be definitely will have more diversified portfolio. Definitely will have more interesting investment opportunities arising domestically and internationally as well, because, as you know, we have a limit of 20% of our portfolio can go into MSCI index, for instance, or into global instruments. So that's one of the things, because we'll really start the diversification process. And in 2023, when we are able to invest not only in the low risk portfolio, but in medium and high risk portfolio, that will be a very good preparatory time for us, and we'll have some time to prepare for that major milestone that we'll have to face in 2023. As for the operational side, we will definitely make our services available digitally, electronically, because we have to, our beneficiaries have to have
PA is not covering regions with
we're not covering
physically.
We have just one office in Tbilisi, so everyone has to have option to use our services through their personal electronic pages that are available, by the way, within the pension electronic system. So that's very important milestones, and even pension payments and all the paperwork that is connected to the pension payment should be done electronically. Everything should be done electronically. So that's one of the very important milestones that we have, because the agency, the beneficiaries, the number of beneficiaries are increasing, payouts also increasing, so we cannot have everyone coming to our office, right? So we have to have some kind of availability through different channels. So that's one of the things that we're trying to achieve.
Wonderful. Wish you success then, and we'll follow up with BMG TV.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good
Happy
luck.
New Year, and
yes,
wish you
Happy New Year.
success.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Well, that's all for today. We will see you next Sunday, the same day from the same studio.
Yes, at 10 p.m. sharp. Till then, follow us on bm.g and forbes.g and take care.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.